So today's February 5th, and interesting things happened today. One thing that happened was President Trump was acquitted of his 2 articles of impeachment. No surprise there.
No.
You have all kinds of response from the State of the Union address, Nancy Pelosi ripping up those papers. Oh my God, how could she? Welcome to Navigating the Shift.
Welcome to the drama of the world today.
The drama, oh my God.
And
reading through social media.
There's far more to come. So what are the little things, other little bits of news? Can you think of any that you want to
Bits of news. Well, I just think the reaction on social media to the State of the Union is actually hysterical. People are so upset. They're trying to do deep dives into it. It's like, no, those were the articles of impeachment. No, it's illegal to rip up documents like that. Impeach Pelosi, and no, that was legal ink paper, and that couldn't be it. That the State of the Union comes on letter paper, and besides, the State of the Union's this thick, and she just did 2 rips, The offense and the outrage is ridiculous. Oh my God, there's this wonderful old 100-year-old first fighter pilot there with his great-great-grandson.
She just ripped him up. Yeah,
she ripped him up. By the way, it looks like the great-grandson was wearing an American flag pin, and it looked like where the stripes were, there was a Q, just saying. It's a little blurry, but kind of interesting. So, as far as the Democratic media, it's got to have been planned out to destroy the Democrats, because I'm hearing on the radio people saying, we're lifelong Democrats. We voted for Hillary. But when those people in there didn't stand for a little black girl getting a scholarship, they didn't stand for a child who was 22 weeks old when she was born prematurely, and there she is doing well. I will never vote Democrat again.
It's serious, isn't it? And I've seen also ratings of the mainstream TV networks, and news is like right across the top, all the way at the top, and all the other ones are dropped down, way down. So, and whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, it does seem to be like a major turnaround. And if she goes around ripping things up on national television, if you're not even trying to hide your hatred for somebody anymore, then of course people are going to wake up to that, right? She's not even being subtle anymore.
Yes. And my thought was, remember when she handed out impeachment pens? And then shortly thereafter, Trump is handing out trade agreement pens. Yeah. So here she is ripping into 2, and she had them in 2 bunches. She took the first bunch, tacked them together, rip, second bunch, tacked with a rip. Then there's going to be Trump, of course, following up with his 2 articles of impeachment, rip, right? Rip. And it just hit me that this is a drama. This isn't even real. And the talking points, of course, all are that Trump and his whole State of the Union address is just like pro wrestling. It's all fake. And I was like, and the talking points are coming across over and over and over, seeing it on social media. Pro wrestling, it's all fake, I'm starting to wonder if it isn't actually a plan to wake people up to how fake it all is.
Maybe, because it's becoming so cartoon-like. You can't possibly get it wrong. It reminds me of a magic act that I saw one time of a guy who I used to work with quite a bit, and he has the same birthday as me too. So we kind of became friends. Yep. But he'd sit somebody in a chair, and he'd screw up a little piece of paper, and he'd say, "Can you see it?" He's standing behind his shoulder and holds it in front of him. "Can you see it? This piece of paper?" And the guy goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Look at this. 1, 2, 3, nothing there, And so the audience see this little piece of paper go behind the guy's head, and they'll go, and he goes, "Oh my God, where is that?" He says, "Let's do it again." So he gets a slightly bigger piece. 1, 2, 3, but it's so beautifully smooth, not like me. And and you can't figure it out. And people start to laugh more and more. He gets a bigger piece. Then he takes a whole friggin' toilet roll. And you can hear it go dunk behind him. And then he looks and it starts laughing. And you see all the paper all over the back of the stage. That it's almost like that, isn't it? Like a cartoon. Do we have to, how obvious do we need to make this for you to understand that this whole thing is falling apart? So when Q has constantly gone on about you are watching a movie, I do think about that. You know, sometimes I remember when that TV series 24 came out with Sutherland.
Kiefer
Sutherland. And it was absorbing, and it was friggin' every night, which was really annoying. So you couldn't have a night off. You had to know what was going on. And everybody was talking about it. And I thought, why are we doing this 24 nights in a row? Are you kidding me? I don't want to do this. And yet, you know, you'd miss a night and you go, what did I miss? It almost feels like that and then because everyone was so absorbed and trying to discuss the mysteries, and that one Lost as well, everybody gets dumped on an island from a plane crash. And it's another one, everyone was talking about like crazy, so many things unanswered. And in the end, I was just like, I just want to get on with life. So is that what Q means by when you're watching a movie?
It seems like it.
You don't need to get so totally absorbed in it.
So I think it's really important for us all to like take that step back. Observe it as if it is a movie. As we're approaching the event, and it's going to get more intense, and getting caught up in it brings your frequency down, then you're not aligned with going to fourth density or the new earth, however you want to describe it. I recently read an article by a guy named Doug S.E., or E-S-S-E is how it's spelled. I'm not familiar with him. But he writes about, the name of the article is The Cabal's Last Trick. And I want to share some of it with you because I think it's really good. So the idea is that the Cabal knows, so the Cabal, you've got the human parts of it, and then you've got the extraterrestrial negatives up there and whatever, AI or whatever. So they know what's going on. They've got the grand view. They know our planet is transforming to fourth density. So they can't stop that. So they're not trying to prevent it because it won't work. But what they're trying to do is to get as many people as possible stuck in third density or old Earth thinking, in the, you know, in the lower chakras or lower frequencies, however you want to describe it, the negative emotions. And that also that they're actually playing us, possibly through Q, by making the Cabal look so evil, and it revs up our hatred and our disgust, our anger, you know, indignation and total betrayal. You know, going, and we spend all our time digging into all the conspiracies and going, oh my God, they're doing that. That's awful, satanic. They're murdering children. Ah, you know. But basically, what happens with that is we're rolling around in those lower frequencies. And I've been noticing that, like going through social media, I'll start getting in that. Yeah, we're winning. You know.
Yeah.
And because we've been losers for so long, you know, we've been under their power and slaves and abused and all this other stuff. It feels so good to be winning, but that's still us versus them. That's still divisive. That's not unity consciousness. And the new earth, the fourth density, whatever you call it, it's unity. It's, you know, it is, we are where we go when we go all, which is nice there. But what I'm seeing humans do with that is where we go one, where we go all, as long as you're on our team.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's not all at all, is it? Where we go one, we go all. It's not the case at all.
No. No, all does not include Nancy Pelosi.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah, or Rothschild or whatever they want to do. Yeah, I know that the goal of this transformation up into 5D is, the goal is to take everybody. Now, the question arises as to what everybody is. Is it every soul? Or as we've learned about before from several different sources, this idea that there are soulless players as part of this game that are part of the matrix, part of the 3D hologram. So they'll just disappear along with the 3D world when the time comes, which might take 50 years. You know, it's not like it's all going to happen at the same time and, oh, where did Auntie Millie go? You know, it's not like that. It's going to take a while. Whether something major will happen that will create like an actual, it's not a physical split. It's hard to describe, but many people, starseeds as they're called, have had dreams of transferring from one to the other. Go down to 3D world, see if you can lure a few more of them back. Can you get rid of your baggage? Can you find the peace within yourself? peace and kindness, PEACE, in order to come across the bridge and come up into the 5D world. It's so much nicer there. Come on. And the goal is to bring everybody. Now, how you
is
do
that really the goal? I'm not so sure it is.
Well, that's what I was told. This is not my opinion. This is what I've learned. And I sit there going, well, how does that work with criminals? I know that there is a lot of understanding that we need to put into this. And that if you understand how someone ended up the way they are, then, and you truly understand that, then you have the opportunity to feel compassion. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody who's committed a crime just gets let off and they're like, woo-hoo, they've got compassion for me, I can go and do it again. Because they just won't make it into the 5D world, is the impression I have. If they still have that mindset that this is what I need to do to survive. I need to kill somebody if they disagree with me. I need to steal this in order to, feed my kids. Or you can't continue on the same 3D survival tactics that are not full of love and joy. So they have to give those up, which is really hard. It's much harder for them than for the rest of us that have been, pretty much crime-free. It's not so hard for us to do that. Crime in itself is kind of a funny thing. Okay, you've got crime that might be, we only judge physical crimes. We don't judge people who sit there with nasty thoughts in their head and hating someone or being jealous of someone. Those in themselves are probably crime as well, but they just don't get judged the same way because we don't act on it. We don't necessarily go out and beat someone's knee in the ice skating rink because we're jealous of them.
So if you think of that type of those angry, revengeful thoughts as actually being crime, look what we're doing. We're becoming like them.
Criminals, aren't we? Yeah, by hating Cabal. That's right.
And projecting all of that from inside ourselves to the outside, which means we're not doing our inner work.
Yeah.
And then that's another thing that you got to do your inner work. That's the number one thing.
That was in that as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. He actually wrote a list of 4 things he suggested and, asked people to continue with it. But the first thing he said is incarnate fully here and now. Just what I was saying. Don't focus on the future. Live as if we're all one now and give up the good guys, bad guys thing. Can you have compassion? I mean, if you think about it, people who are rape kids, most of the time they are raped as kids, and then their parents were probably raped as kids. It goes on and on and on. How far back do you go to blame somebody? If you don't do your inner work, having been abused, you become an abuser. So it's super important to do the inner work. The second thing he mentioned was what he calls restorative justice system, as opposed to a retribution-based justice system, which is that like you were saying, that involves the compassion of understanding that that's how they got created to being what they are. And then the 4th thing he suggested, and I think we're already kind of doing this, is to do group meditations geared toward enlightening the planet, but that are intentionally inclusive of the bad guys.
Right.
Now, the caveat I'll add to that is you don't want to send a whole bunch of love and light. Go, here, Nancy Pelosi, I'm going to send you a big old beam of love and light, or here, evil extraterrestrials, or whatever. Because if they're really on a negative path, that to them will feel like an attack, and they'll attack back. So like what we do in our meditations is we've created big bubbles of love and light, new energy, unity consciousness, and say placed it over Washington, D.C., and just had it be there. And then sort of, those who can make use of this, here's an offering for you if you want it. Mm-hmm. So that would be my caveat to that. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing he suggests is kind of the same what we were just still talking about. Look at how much of the Cabal type, the system that the Cabal's created, that you're using within yourself. Do you have any unearned privileges yourself? That, for instance, is an example. And I don't see how that one quite, I sort of see that sort of wraps up into the other one, which is doing your own shadow work. But I think the idea with that is to sort of take your shadow work and then expand it to to your environment, see more like the systems you're living in.
My view of that is that there's probably a lot of different little beliefs that are so entrenched in our minds we don't actually realize how we feel entitled, but we've always been brought up that way, so we don't realize it's there. One that came out viral a couple of days ago was a huge tubby black guy who was a music executive.
There you go.
See that. And and a white lady kept telling him to get aside because she was in first class, so she should go first. And she didn't realize that he had a first class ticket. And then when he said that he did, she thought that he'd won it or something. Could not imagine that he had earned it with his own money. It's a bit like that guy who owned the basketball team when the whole lot of racism conversation came up. Do you remember? That was it was quite a few years ago now. I've got it somewhere linked on my blog, that guy. He's a white guy, but he had these terrible racist comments, even though he was a funder for a black basketball team. But it just really stops and make you think, not just for that blonde woman to stop and go, oh God, I did that and I assumed that about him because he was this huge obese black guy. That gives her opportunity to question herself. But it's good for everybody to see that and go, oh, do I do that? Actually, yeah, I probably do. I judge people that are hugely obese because they're probably not looking after themselves when I hadn't really thought about the fact that maybe they have a health issue, or maybe they eat to comfort themselves because they have something that they've not resolved. There's the compassion side of it that you could pick up on. That's an example of it, So it gives everybody the opportunity to do that work. And I guess each one will when their time is right. Sometimes you get a little insight, and I don't know if you'd call it the cognitive dissonance, but you go, oh, wow, yeah. And then you just kind of move on and get on with life, and you forget about it. So you need a bigger one next time and a bigger one next time. And each time will get more violent, more obvious. You've got to get to the point where you go, oh, I really have to address this. I've seen this many times and I still haven't addressed it within myself to change myself, and then you don't have to see that again because the lesson is learned.
So just one last little thing, I've mentioned this before, but a suggestion, if you want to start sort of making those shifts within yourself, just take a time when you're going out into the world shopping or running errands or whatever, so you'll be around other people and not people and just be really, really conscious of every single tiny little judgment you might make about them. Wow, you could have painted your car. I mean, that's pretty rusty. Or God, this person can't even freaking park their car. Some little thing. And then halfway through, make the conscious choice to each person you notice, think something kind and compassionate toward them. I like, maybe have joy in your life. Something like that. I hope you have joy in your life. Just love and joy for you. I hope you have that. Maybe you have love. And you will see a big difference to the way your world flows and how you feel. And it's a really good way to catch, like, oh my God, I really am being judgmental. Because a lot of judgments are so unconscious.
Well, what about those that very obviously make themselves as criminals? How would you see that? You can't just wish love and joy on them when they've just been caught, after raping.
No, well, that's not what this exercise is about. It's just about noticing it. But, in those other situations, I believe that, if somebody's a rapist or whatever, I think they've got to be confined. They can't be allowed to continue to hurt people. And I don't think most of the modern therapy is really going to help a lot of those people.
No.
But as we go forward and we have some of the disclosures of technologies, and the event happens and the compression of the density is lifted, I think it will be more, not easier, but less difficult for people to flip. A lot of the people talking about say that when all the darkness, and how I saw it was waves coming through the sun, hits the planet, and all these black crust is just dissolved and blown off. With that gone, I think a lot of people will just go, crap, all that negative stuff that's been in there, whoa, I can't believe I've been doing that. I will never do this stuff again.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Heavy way to live, isn't it? Very heavy. For each little piece that you discover within yourself and release it, it just makes life easier. It means that you get your energy back and you're not exhausted all the time, because it is exhausting carrying that baggage. It's exhausting carrying lies, lies to yourself or lies that you've said to other people.
Each piece of that you do helps the collective as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about today. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.